welcome to the Genetic Genius, Tim James, aka the Health Hero, founder of the chemicalfreebody.com. I'm so excited to have you today.
Well, doctor, I am excited to be on this podcast today. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. And we're going to be talking about a lot of fun stuff today. But before we dive in, I just would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience so they can find out about, your story, your passion. It sounds like you've got a lot of stuff that you've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to go back to my roots because I grew up in I think a lot of people have related to me. I found out because a lot of people grew up like out in farms and stuff, and I grew up on a cattle and hay farm over in Eastern Oregon, and I grew up hunting and fishing. So, my life was meat and potatoes, cake, ice cream, and candy, and over again, donuts and all that stuff. And I grew up, enjoying all that stuff, potato salad and pies. But we did grow gardens, and I understood about nature, and I was out in the woods all the time. So what ended up, I played baseball at a high level for 30 years. And then at age 37, I'd found myself with the mortgage and the 2 kids and coaching football and basketball and that kind of stuff. But I found myself 38 pounds overweight. My energy was definitely going away. I was sleeping terribly. I was swollen as well. I started having acid reflux, and I eating Tums and Rolaids like they were going out of style. The doctor wanted me to go on Prilosec, but I didn't want to do that because it sounded weird and sounded like I was eating an alien or something. And anyway, but then it got worse. Then I started bleeding rectally when I would poop. That's why my shirt says, for those of you that are listening, you can't see on YouTube, it says "Love when you poop," because for me, pooping was a real, it wasn't fun. Like it was this bad. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, if 1 was like not very much pain at all, and 10 was like, please end my life, I'm in terrible pain, I was like a 6 or 7.
Wow.
For a moment every time I would go. It was so freaking painful. And then it was always followed with blood. And then I look at it and be like, oh, hope that goes away. And I back to work, back to raising kids, making the mortgage, entertaining, doing whatever I needed to do. And this went on for 2.5 years. Think about that.
Wow.
So I was literally as a guy with my head buried in the sand, in denial, literally in super denial, and just wasn't talking about it. I also got eczema on both of my elbows. I got a huge patch on my knee. Being a financial advisor at the time, I was wearing white shirts. I couldn't do that anymore because my elbows would crack and bleed, especially in the wintertime. And I'd go over to your house and bleed on your wall, and I had cleaning people's walls and cleaning people's couches. And I was getting tired of it. It's like I'm bleeding all the time. My elbows are bleeding, my knees bleeding. I'm bleeding when I poop. And it was just like, it was very frustrating. And it was, and the energy, and I swear to God, like I was a big athlete, but then, the only reason I was getting up and moving anymore was because I had dogs and they couldn't walk themselves. But getting up and going and walking the dogs was not, it was a chore. It was like I had to push myself. Right. So what ended up happening was then I went on a vacation, and I had to get, basically it was south of Ecuador in northern Peru. Beautiful, wonderful vacation we planned for over a year. And I had an attack in my gut, and I was like, oh, I felt terrible. And I had to be life driven because we missed the 1 plane out of there a day, 6 hours in this bumpy ass road all the way to Piora. And then I'm laying in an observation room, examination table with the third world country with bugs flying around in me.
Oh my gosh.
And here I'm like, I paid into health insurance my whole freaking life, and I can't even use it. Right.
Yeah.
So they doped me up, put me on a plane, which you're not supposed to do. But my wife at the time's dad was a medical doctor, and he was getting the whole he's like, you're not getting operated on here. I'll have my surgeons handle it. Flew me in, taxi right into surgery. And I spent the rest of our vacation in the hospital. And then I got wheeled back into the US on a wheelchair by my wife. And what I learned from that, and I want to get this across to everybody, is that my poor health didn't affect just me. I ruined a trip for my wife and her dad. And we were in paradise, right? We were literally in paradise, having a great time. And it's just like, but I didn't know what to do. And I kept reading all the books. I eat 5 meals a day and do this and do paleo and do keto. And there's all these different things, and you get some results, but they're all have little pieces. And what I learned is the standard American diet is just so darn bad that if you change anything, you're probably going to get some results, but it might not be enough to resolve your issue. Right. So what ended up happening is that I had a friend of mine that I played baseball with, Kalei Mahoy, and he was really good shape. I mean, he was the guy with the 6-pack abs, maybe even an 8-pack. Okay. Yeah. And he's 40, and he gets cancer. And and I remember looking at him, and he was spitting up blood in his last baseball game. And my buddy Jason looked at him. He's like, "Clay, what are you doing out here, man?" He's like, "Hey, man, look, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out doing what I love." And what do you say to that? You know, he ended up passing away 80 pounds under his weight. He looked like somebody from Auschwitz. And you couldn't even recognize him on hospice and the morphine drips. He did chemo. He did, surgeries and stuff like that. He went through hell. Now, this was the first time that this had happened to somebody my age. So my grandma died of brain cancer. That was horrible. It was traumatic. My aunt died of skin cancer, melanoma. That was super bad. It was bad. And, but when you think people get older, they die of something, right? Now it's like, shit, this guy's 40. Yeah. Right. And he's like my age. And, so we did a fundraiser. Yeah. And again, his poor health, what did it affect? It affected his little boys from ages 6 to 17. He had 3 young boys now with no father. So this is very sobering. A few years later, one of my best friends, Charles, gets diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which is a supposedly incurable blood cancer. Right. And he's like, "Hey, look, man," he goes, "I'm going to try to heal naturally. I'm going to go to this place called the Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida. And I want you to go with me to support me." And I said, "Dude, I'm in, whatever you need." Now,
let's go.
I had no idea what I was getting myself into, literally. But I just wanted to support my friend. So we booked the plane flights, do all the thing. It wasn't cheap, but we flew there. And on the plane flight there, he's like, "Oh, by the way, there's no meat, there's no dairy, no salt, no sugar. There's nothing cooked over 115 degrees. He's like reading off this little list. I'm like, "What?
Like, what did I sign up for?
What do you mean no meat?" You know, I'm like freaking out now because I thought you had to have meat to have muscle and to exist, because that's what's been promoted by society over and over and over again. Right. Now, for those of you eating meat, I'm not going to keep slamming meat. Okay. But that's what was going on at that point in time. Right. And I've been coaching people for years, and I work with people that are plant-based, and I work with people that are hardcore meat eaters and everywhere in between. And I'm just telling you my take. Okay. So I just don't want people to shut off thinking that I'm anti-meat. Right. At that point.
It's all individualized.
So what ended up happening is we go there, and day one, my acid indigestion was gone. And it has never returned. It has never returned. Right.
Is that the Ann Wigmore Institute, the Hippocrates one?
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it was originally started by Ann Wigmore, who healed herself of stage 4 colon cancer with lawn grass and herbs. Think about that. So it was the chlorophyll in the grass. So now their main thing is wheatgrass. They found out that wheatgrass has more minerals in it. It's more palatable than lawn grass or ryegrass or barley grass or oat grass.
I love
and it's a chlorophyll is a purifier, right? It's the plant blood, which is very similar to our blood, right? Except our blood is carried by iron and the plant blood is carried by magnesium, but it's very similar. So anyway, I go to this place, and the shocker was this. The first class was called Internal Awareness. And this doctor comes out, Dr. Scott, and he's just like got muscles all over, bursting out the seams. And here I'm freaking out about this whole muscle thing. And then I find out he hasn't had a piece of meat in 10 years. So he shattered the whole myth that you had to have meat to have muscles. And I'm like, what? And he just turned 50 that day. Like that day I was there was his birthday. And I thought, oh, that guy's probably 40. He's my age, you know, he's getting a couple years old. He's 50. He looked fantastic. His wife looked fantastic. They looked amazing. In fact, that was the common theme. All the people working at the Institute that have been working there 10, 20 years, they looked about 10, 20 years younger than the average population, the general population.
Totally is with raw foods, completely that way.
So, you know, here I am, redneck. I'm making fun of vegetarians. I didn't even know vegan things existed. We really would have made fun of them. But all these people were walking around eating plants, and they looked healthier than anybody had ever seen. So it's like, you know, and I'm questioning everything. How could this little podunk place help people with cancer? Like, they've been spending billions on research and genetics, and it doesn't even make sense. Well, that whole thing I learned was we can get into that later. But so this class was very important. And this guy spent 3.5 hours lecturing us from the time we eat food until the time the food exits our body, what happens. Right. And it was awesome. And he actually showed pictures inside of people's colons. Here's a 24-year-old woman with Crohn's disease and breast cancer. Right. And her colon was nasty. It's like brown and yellow and all this stuff. And here's a 65-year-old male with prostate cancer and colitis, you know, and here's a 42-year-old woman with parasites and fibromyalgia. And every time people had these diseases, it didn't matter what the disease was, their colons inside looked nasty.
Right.
They
Yeah.
look
Toxic,
nasty.
like a waste
And
dump.
yep. And then they showed healthy people, and they showed the inside of their colons. It was clean and beautiful.
Right. It's
So
like
I'm
all like
like,
pink and pretty in there.
yeah, and I'm sitting there, it's all sinking in. And what he was trying to do though, then they educate us on enemas, because everybody, they
Right.
got wall hangers, you're doing enemas and you're implanting wheatgrass rectally, which
Mhm.
was like crazy talk. I mean, it's like, guys, especially, we don't want to put anything in our butt. That's weird. Right. But anyway, then he started talking about colon hydrotherapy. And for those
Mhm.
listening, colon hydrotherapy is just you set on a tube rectally, and water just gently goes in and out of your colon for about an hour, and it cleans your freaking colon out. I mean, that's what
Mhm.
happens. Okay. It's
Yeah.
pretty simple. Now, he looked at me for some reason, and he pointed at me. He said, Tim, you got 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. And if you ever want to get healthy, you're going to have to clean it up. I've shown
Right.
you today what's going on with people that are sick. You've seen the insides. And that's the problem today, is that people, you can see the outside. We take really good care of our hair. We comb our hair. We put on our makeup, or, guys, whatever, we get our suits on nice and looking good. But what about the inside? You
Right.
can't see it. So out of sight, out of mind. It's kind of like the person who's OCD. They clean their kitchen, but you put your finger across the top of the refrigerator, and most likely there's some dust up there, because it's
Oh,
out of sight, out of mind. That
right.
dust has been accumulating in your colon for your entire life, and you
Mhm.
need to get it cleaned out. That's just the way it is, right? Because we don't
Mhm.
eat from 100% from nature anymore. We have all this cooked food, boxed food, canned food,
Right.
processed, additives, blah, 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 all this stuff. And we all know it. And it's not that we're bad people. That's the environment we were raised in.
Right.
Just like me. I wasn't a bad person, but hey, guess what? Chicken strips and JoJo sounds good with ranch dip. So I've been eating that stuff.
Mhm.
So I didn't want to do it. I remember elbowing Charles and saying, hey, look, I came here to help you, but I'm not doing that colon hydrotherapy thing. I can tell you right now. But then after all the videos and explanation, I was the first one signing up. The next day, I go in, they weigh me. I do the colon hydrotherapy thing. They weigh me again an hour later. I had 10 pounds of impacted fecal material in my colon that I dropped. Just like that doctor said, he goes, Tim, and the average person's got about 6 to 12 pounds of that stuff. Now, the record at the Institute was a lady, she dropped 27 pounds of impacted fecal material out of her colon in 1
27
hour. One
pounds.
colon hydrotherapy.
Oh
27 pounds is the
That's
record. Okay.
crazy.
So yeah, that's, it's the size of a dog. Think about that.
Right. Yeah.
It's
That's like, yeah,
crazy.
a third of my
What,
body weight. Like
what a toxic burden. Like, that stuff is
right.
housing nasty stuff. And so what we learned is that people that have a low oxygen environment, your body, if your body's low oxygen and high acid, this is a breeding ground for harmful organisms, viruses, bacteria, molds, yeast, fungus, parasites,
It's like
mutagens.
a
Yeah,
party.
cancers love it. They're like, woohoo.
Right.
So what you do is you change the environment, right? And this is called epigenetics.
Right.
Dr. Bruce Lipton, you guys can look it up. He's a lovable guy, genetic researcher, and then he coined the term epigenetics, and it's the environment, stupid, right? Well, I got breast cancer because my mom's got it, my grandma's got it, and I'm like, no, you're all eating the same crap, or you're
Right.
all living next to Flint, Michigan, or you're all exposed to these power lines, right?
Yeah, we
You're
control
all,
our environment.
you change your environment, you change how the genes express themselves, right?
Exactly.
So, but what I did was I cleaned out my gut first, and I started working on that. And then I started flooding my body with nature, drinking these 2 green juices a day, every day without fail. I never missed. And I came home within 60 days. I lost all the weight. My acid reflux was gone from day one. I could feel my ribs again. It was crazy. I went from larges and extra larges to smalls and mediums again, like I was in college. And nobody was listening to me when I got back, because I'm like, oh my God, you can juice your way to health. And Charles was going to heal himself with wheatgrass. And everybody thought I lost it. Like, Tim's crazy. He's a moron now. He's in some cult. I mean, they thought I was crazy. But 60 days later, when I lost the weight, now they're all like, now what were you doing?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they could see the results.
Right.
And this is the problem, doctor, is we have people, it always has to be seeing is believing, not believing is seeing, right?
Especially when it's on the inside.
Yeah, and it's so simple. It's these toxic microscopic particles and the buildup that has accumulated in our body that is really dragging down our immune system. I believe that my goal and my mission in life now is to bring awareness to this, and then to help people learn how to get this stuff out so they can boost their immune system and have a vibrant, happy life.
Yeah. Well, great, Tim. That was an amazing beginning to our conversation today. And what a journey. Like, and it's amazing. What I really appreciated was how it was like the catapult for you to change your entire life, and sometimes it really takes, especially when it comes to our health, a huge wake up call. And then when we can share that with others, which that's totally your passion, which is so
Hmm.
amazing, that's what makes such a difference. And I'm so
Hmm.
happy. Yay.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I literally can't believe what I'm doing. Like, and I still doubted myself, even though I'd healed myself. And here's the best part of the story. My friend Charles, that was the
Hmm.
whole reason we went.
Right.
2.5 years, his white blood cell count was back to normal. He had literally healed himself of this catastrophic, no cure cancer, blood cancer
Right.
deal by himself.
Hmm.
By himself through detoxing, proper living food and nutrition, eating lots of raw foods, adding more plants to his life, moving his body again, exercising,
Hmm.
and getting that attitude between his two ears right, that he's like, I'm going to live.
Right.
I am not a
Yep.
victim. I am not a genetic slave. I'm going to change my environment, and I'm going to let my genes start expressing themselves in a healthy way again. And that's what he did.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so true. And that's one of the things I find so disheartening about our current medical model is that, people are given some kind of diagnosis and then it's like they can't come out of that fog that's been put over them. And then they just like, well, okay, that's it. But it's not that. You can totally, just like you said, you can change anything that you want when you put your mind to it.
Hmm.
Sometimes it takes a little bit more work because how long have you been in the state of disorganization and ill health, right?
Yeah, if you spent like 40, 50 years getting there, you
Right.
can't expect, like I always
Overnight.
tell people when they come to us in our coaching program or our products and stuff, I was like, look, this isn't the take a pill and tomorrow you're better
Right.
program,
Yeah, exactly.
right? You might start feeling better out of the gate, especially on the products and stuff, but the reality is it took you many, many years to get where you're at,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And it's literally it's a 2 to 3 year program. So what it really boils down to, it's a lifestyle,
Right.
because it takes
Total
about two to
lifestyle
three years
change.
for your body to completely heal itself and get your immune system back up to. And I don't care if you're stage 4 cancer or you're an Olympic level athlete. Once you start on this program, and it's a 2 to 3 year deal
Mhm.
before your both immune systems are at the top. It's just the way it is.
Yeah,
And
especially
I've
in
seen that
chronic
over the last
disease.
I've seen that over the last 10 years.
Yeah, that totally makes total sense.
Mhm.
Let's talk about like one piece of that. I'd love for us to talk kind of like pain and inflammation. You mentioned that a little bit with your own story. And where do you think, like, so you talked about the toxicity piece or the toxic piece. And do you think that's your own opinion and like, research backs it too, but about inflammation, where it's stemming from? And do you think it's coming from the toxic load?
Well, it's coming from a few different reasons or places. Number one, yes, toxins. Since
Mhm.
we talked about that, it just
Right.
makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're breathing in toxins like Roundup,
Hmm.
which is set the glyphosate, the main
Right. Or
ingredient in that
cigarettes.
herbicide. Yeah, smoking a cigarette.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
paint is off gassing in these rooms
Hmm.
that we're in right now. If
Hmm.
you guys have laminate floors, the MIT Dr. Seneff showed that that's directly linked to Alzheimer's in children. Children are crawling us around. Those things are off gassing. Lycra
Right.
bras and panties are off gassing these estrogen mimicking chemicals right into your high hormonal areas, right into the breast.
Right.
The larger the breast and the wire underneath, the worse it gets.
Hmm.
People say burn the bras. I'd say, well, just throw them away. You don't want to burn them because you're going to create more toxins, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's pervasive. Even on like televisions, they spray them with anti-flame retardants, right?
Right. So
And
bad.
it's just everything. It's everything. Like when I
Hmm.
got home and I learned like a Hippocrates, like it
Hmm.
said on your shampoos, sodium lauryl sulfate,
Right.
which is a known carcinogen. It causes cancer.
Yeah.
And I got home and guess what? Freaking sodium lauryl sulfate
And
and all my
everything.
stuff, everything.
Right.
And
Hmm.
then, the Glade plugins, those are toxic.
Oh,
Purell
so
hand
bad.
sanitizer, killing your innate immune system. I'm looking at, also, they were talking about toothpaste. If your toothpaste
Hmm.
is harmful if swallowed, contact the Poison Control Center.
Right. You should not be
Why are
using
you putting it in your
it.
mouth?
Right.
Guess what? I got home, harmful if swallowed, contact. Damn it. It's
Right.
like everything in my whole life
Had to
was
change.
toxic.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
you don't get it because you can't see it. It's this microscopic 24/7 assault that's
Mm.
happening. And your body is permeable, your body's nature, your skin. I learned this a long time ago. My buddy had a horse And when the horse got injured, you'd put DMSO on it, right? And if you got one little drop of DMSO on your skin anywhere, in seconds, you could taste it in your mouth. Seconds, because it would go right through your skin. And that I learned that lesson a long time ago, that our skins are like sponges.
Yeah, it's our largest organ.
Right? You get your skin in contact with anything. What you're showering in, what you're bathing in, what you're touching, any of that stuff. Soaps, shampoos, that stuff's going into your body, and there's no liver to filter it. It goes directly into the bloodstream.
Right. Yeah. And then we have to process it in a totally different way.
Right.
Our body's not happy with that.
Right. So what we were talking about is inflammation. What are the causes? Well, number one, obviously these toxins are causing a cellular inflammation, or inflammation on a cellular level. So we want to get that stuff out of there, because it's not nature. It's man-made. It's synthetic. It's acid-based. We're carbon-based beings. Number two, this is something that a lot of people miss, is the earth has a natural frequency. The term today is called earthing or grounding. For those, you can look it up, earthing or grounding. All it really means is, like, again, it's a no-see-em. You can't see the earth's natural energy, but it's there. Here's an example. Pull out a compass. Anywhere in the world you go, the north arrow, it moves.
Goes to north.
There's an energetic frequency there. Okay, now it's seeing is believing, because you can see it, right? But here's the deal. This isn't woo. I can take what's called live blood cell microscopy, and I can look at your blood, and we can see it kind of doing its thing, dancing around in there. And then I can have you get naked or get barefoot and go stand outside on the ground, not super dry, but kind of moist. We want a good conductor, and get on the ground for a couple hours. Come on back in. We'll prick your finger again. We'll put it under the microscope, and look, and that blood will be racing around.
Right, because it totally changed the frequency and harmonics of the blood.
Yeah, it's like plugging it's like a battery. Look at the earth as like a battery charger. It's plugged into the wall, and then your battery, and you just like simply put it in and let it charge. That's what's happening. So every single creature on this planet is in direct contact with the earth. This is part of nature. But we've moved into houses with foundations, and we sleep on beds, and we're on the second floor, and we wear rubber shoes since the 60s. And we have rubber tires, and we work in buildings and concrete and the pavement, concrete jungle, right? We are disconnected. Now, the second that we remove our natural body from the earth, inflammation begins. At some level, on a cellular level, you have inflammation. But here's the cool thing. As soon as you touch the earth again, the inflammation starts dropping down.
Right. You're grounded.
So this is why absolutely. So this is why in our coaching program, one of the first things I do is, this is very passive, is that on my desk and below my desk, I work barefoot most of the time. I have these pads that I plug in. So outside of every home, this is the good news, outside of every home or business, there's an iron rod driven down into the soil. That's a grounding rod.
Right.
And that is that third prong in your electrical outlet. So there's companies out there like earthing.com, and you can buy these mats or pads or bed sheets that have silver threads in them, or bed pads, and then you plug them into the third prong. There's a little tester. You got to make sure it's safe. You just, the right lights line up, and if it's good, you plug it in, you're good to go. But then you can lay on these things, and you can get grounded while you're sleeping. This is, and since people started doing this, people instantly start sleeping better. Their blood flow improves. People with neuropathy, especially, because they have terrible blood flow, you start losing toes and fingers and stuff like that. And eyesight. People heal faster. Everything works better because you're back to nature. I mean, think about it. When do you feel the best? Well, when you go on vacation, you go outside, you're touching the ground, doing all that stuff. Okay, so I want to make a big deal about grounding and earthing, because it is a big deal. And if you're not doing this, you're really shooting yourself in the foot, because like, it's causing inflammation. It's something you can change. Just purchase some of these products and you're dialed, and then boom, you're grounded. Now, if you're smart, you can do it yourself. You can run some leads in from out, but there's documentaries to watch on this there's one called The Grounded. And once you watch it, you'd be like, oh my God, this is a no-brainer.
Totally makes sense. Right. Well, we chose to be on the planet. We were born on the planet for a reason, right? We want to be connected to the center of the earth, where we have so much healing that can be rooted in, right?
Yeah. So here's a couple other reasons for inflammation. I would get to this later, but people are not drinking enough water.
Right. Oh God, I know. It's crazy. I'll ask patients like, how much water are you drinking? Oh, I'll have 2 glasses a day. I'm like, what? There's a reason that you're not feeling better or feeling anything. Your body cannot function on that little water. It's just not possible.
Yeah. We'll get more into the water when we talk about those core 4 secrets, but water is a big one. It's huge. It's
Yeah.
especially when you're wanting to detox that gut too. It's like you got arthritis, yeah, you need water. Like
Right.
it's
Oh
just
yeah.
acid. Water's the neutralizer. We just want to make sure it's the right water.
Right.
Okay, and then another one for inflammation is stress.
Oh yeah.
Bottom line, I'm like, stress is affecting your cells. Again, it's the no-see-ums. Oh, how could emotions be affecting my health? Well, it's probably one of the biggest reasons people are going to the hospital today.
Right. Yeah. Especially right now, stress is such a huge key factor for people.
Yeah, please, if you're listening to this today, shut off the news.
Right.
Oh, they're designed to do 2 things: sell stuff to us and put us in fear mode. And
Right.
fear mode is going to lower your immune system and make you more susceptible to whatever disease they're trying to scare you of.
Right.
That's what's going to happen. You cannot live in fear. It's fight or flight response. I mean, if you're in fear, you're gonna be closed. You're not gonna be an open person. You're not gonna heal. You're not gonna heal as fast as you could. So stress. So yeah, I'd say lack of water, toxic buildup, not being grounded, connected to the earth, and stress. Those would be four really good ones that are causing inflammation in the body. And then probably a last one would be just people are just not moving their body well enough.
Right. Yeah. Movement is so key. Yeah.
Yeah, movement and sleep. I mean, movement
right.
and sleep, these are the
Yeah.
answers to
Sleep.
everything.
Yeah. The foundations, right? You got to have those. And people always say like, well, that's, I don't, not that it's not important, but they don't think it's so easy. Right. I guess that's what I'm saying is like the simplicity of those can be, when you say, yeah, really you got to exercise, sleep, water, nutrition, you're like, really? But
but people aren't doing it.
I know, right? It's like when you really do it, you'll feel better.
Right. Just remember, what's easy to do is also easy not to do.
Right. Totally.
Right. I've coached over 600 people personally. And I felt that people filled out these intake forms and I ask them about their sleep. Do they get up? If so, how often? Why? How's your bowel movements? Is it soft? Is it, all this stuff? And, the bottom line is if you have poor bowel movements and poor sleep, these are check body lights. If you're overweight, if you have, you're tired like I was, you're bleeding rectally, right?
Right. Yeah.
You're having bladder issues. You're constantly getting yeast infections. You're constantly getting colds. I don't get colds and flus anymore. I'm not sick. I don't get sick. I can't get sick unless I have multiple nights of poor sleep. Then I could get a cold, but it's not even what it used to be. Like I used to be sick for like 2 weeks, sore throat, nasty, missing work. Doesn't happen anymore. Yeah,
because your body's healthy, the immune system's back on track.
Yeah, that's where the conversation really needs to be.
Yeah, let's go to the immune system.
Schmidt. Yeah.
Yeah, you can call me Dr. Lulu. Everybody does.
Okay, Dr. Lulu. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's easy. Yeah, let's talk about the immune system because the gut is so connected to the immune system. And that is a big, huge factor of why so many people are having these chronic illnesses related to the immune system. I mean, we're seeing such a huge shift over the past 10 years of the autoimmune conditions really coming so far forward, and really young people, like the amount of women that I see in, their 20s and 30s with autoimmune conditions, it's just really disheartening. I'm like, okay, we've got to see, what's happening. So what do you think about the gut in relationship to the immune system? Do you think they're connected?
Well, I think the gut is definitely part of the gut microbiome and microbiome. So there's the viruses and the bacteria. So what a lot of people aren't aware of is that our bodies are actually composed of 380 trillion viruses.
It's crazy, isn't it? All the stuff that's in our body.
380 trillion virus cells, 60 trillion bacteria, and 6 trillion human cells. So the human body, this suit that we're wearing here, is mostly viruses and bacteria by count. So we have to put that in perspective to think we're going to run from germs. It's ludicrous. I mean, the problem is that the medical system is based on an outdated 100-year model of the immune system. They're talking about the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. And that's it. Now, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, who's one of the top immune system experts in the world, in 2019 did the Prestige lecture at the National Sciences Foundation on the modern system of immunity, or the modern immune system. And he talked about the innate and the adaptive, but he also brought in what was called the interferon system. This is the system that says, hey, bring on the germs. We want germs. We want viruses. We want some some things so we can build resilience. So anytime a
Yeah.
new virus comes in, your body's like, woohoo, and it takes
Right.
it, and you might be sick for a couple days, it's temperature and all that stuff, and then boom, now you've got 1,000 variations of that virus. You've just become your immune system just got boosted 1,000 times.
Right.
This is called natural herd immunity. This is how we boost our immune system. Our bodies want it. It's called resilience. Right. It's just like if you take a child and you shelter them and don't fall in a padded room, put them in a bubble. They don't see any kids.
Right.
They go out in the real world. Now they're 18. They can't even function. They can't,
Right.
they have no resilience. They're going to commit suicide. They're like, or they're just scaredy cats. Right. You got to let people fall. Right. You have, and the immune system wants to build resilience. Now,
right.
So that was the third part. The fourth part of the immune system he talked about was the gut biome.
Right.
These bacteria and stuff that we were talking about. So it's huge. And then also the brain. Yeah. The brain and the gut are connected.
Totally connected. Completely and people connected. Are completely disconnected.
Right. So they're completely, and people are disconnected. So it's so important to, all I've done literally is when I saw the inside pictures of people's colons, I realized that if I want to have good health, forget about the outside. I need to take care of what I can't see.
Right. Exactly.
My goal right now is I know I have those little hair-like structures, those little intestinal villi lining my intestinal tract, my small and large intestine. My goal is to create the environment so keep those suckers healthy.
Right.
Because they're the things that are pulling the nutrients through the intestinal lining into the blood. They're creating that peristaltic action and pushing my food through me and getting the waste out. And your colon, by the way, is not a storage tank. It's a waste removal system.
Storage tank. Right. Yeah. It's not the endless storage unit.
Yeah. It's not supposed to be, having 10 pounds or 27 pounds of impacted fecal material. So definitely want to clean that stuff out. So so this stuff is so important. So the body is like a machine and it just needs to be maintenance. That's what it boils down to. So what we believe is you have to keep the digestive tract clean. We have to maintain a good gut biome. So we have people do raw sauerkrauts and raw kimchis and fermented foods and get outside and get in the dirt.
Right.
And get into as many outside environments as possible, because you're going to, right now, you and I are breathing in bacteria.
Right.
Yippee. and there's studies that show like there's a study that was just done in Finland where they took kids that had dogs or no pets. Then they had children with pets, but they didn't let the pets go outside. And they had children with pets, but the pets were able to go outside. The children had the pets that were able to go outside and bring that bacteria into the house had 43% less ear infections.
Wow. That totally makes sense. I mean, they're exposed.
That's just one study.
Yeah. Your body has to have the exposure. I mean, I can't even imagine. I didn't grow up on a farm, but I played outside in nature all the time. And I can't imagine what I would be like if I didn't grow up like that, and then now I spend so much time outside working on the farm than I work at now. And, I love to be in the dirt, and it's people that don't experience being outside, especially now, with COVID, because I know that people are more confined, but you can still get outside now that things are shifting. You've got to have that time in nature, experience the trees and the birds and the water and the soil. Like you said, Henry Lindlar, he first, I don't know if he was a first to talk about it, but barefoot, being out in nature and having that like experience of having your feet touch the earth, air bathing. We got to have our whole body exposed to the air.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just again, it's the no-see-em. So as far as the gut microbiome, you have to understand that maybe there's somebody here listening say, I grew up on the farm, I was in the dirt, but I'm sick all the time. Well, it's probably the toxic accumulation. Right. Anybody can type this in when they're done listening to this show. Type in umbilical cord and chemical, those three words, umbilical cord and chemical. You'll see the studies going back to 2005 showing that every single child being born and young mother they look for 400 toxic chemicals. They find 250, or about 71% of what they're looking for. And 180 of these cause cancer in humans, that's us, and over 212 cause developmental and brain disorders. Right. So the youngest, the healthiest of us supposedly are already burdened with all these toxic chemicals. You made that earlier. How these young women are sick nowadays. Why?
Right.
Well, they're full of freaking toxins, and these toxins are destroying your microbiome.
Yeah.
They're killing it.
Yeah, it's like acid to the microbiome.
Yep. And if you've been on a lot of antibiotics, you have scarred yourself permanently on a cellular level. There's things you can do to help with that. But You know, you have to build it up and you have to learn to change the environment. That's why we have people crack their windows at night. We get air purification systems. You're doing about
Yeah.
20,000 breaths a day. You probably should have good, clean air. We have people purify their water. We have them, change their bed sheets, the clothing. Everything has to be natural fiber. We get rid of, stupid Glade air fresheners. We have people get diffusers and start diffusing essential oils and rotating those.
Yeah.
Very important. Using essential oils all over the body. It's another medicine. And just, there's so many things you can do. You create this whole lifestyle, and guess what? You just feel better. And all these like medicines, they just they give you energize, and they protect your body, and they build the immune system, and they just help you feel more human, and you get more connected back to nature. And then you're gonna have a stronger immune system, and you're gonna be more resilient. You're not gonna have to worry about COVID or any other disease. You're gonna be like, bring it on, And a lot of people have had COVID. They don't even know it because your immune system has handled it.
Right. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
been completely blown out of proportion. I have went in depth on this because I want to know. I want to know what's going on. I had Erin Olszewski, the epicenter nurse at Elmhurst Hospital, on my show, and I've had who's a senator, Dr. Scott Jensen, on my show, and he was talking about how all of a sudden they wanted him to change the way he fills out death certificates after 30 years. And it's like, he's like, I filled out death certificates for 30 years. And all of a sudden, because of COVID now, like, let's say somebody's got heart disease because they had a shitty diet their whole life. They didn't exercise or move much. They had a couple bypasses. And, now it's time they need a stent, or they got pneumonia. And then while they're in the hospital, they pick up COVID. He said, now, normally I'd fill that out. What was the major cause of death? Well, it was
cardiovascular disease.
Heart disease. Yes, cardiovascular disease. And then co-things would be maybe pneumonia and COVID. But now they want him to put COVID as the death, and then heart disease is like second fiddle. He says this is not the way.
Yeah.
And it's manipulation, and they're doing it at all levels. And I saw it on the news too. Remember I said shut off the TV, but before you do, turn on the news station and look, because what you'll see is where it says cases, and then it says deaths. And now a case is when somebody actually goes in and sees a doctor like you. They fill out whatever happens. It goes on their medical information bureau. They fill out a chart. They get a diagnosis.
Right.
Okay, that's a case. They're not putting up cases. They're putting up testing. It should say positive tests. It shouldn't say case. That is a deceptive lie. It's a manipulation. That's how they do it. They do it very gently and because all the news organizations are doing it, everybody thinks that, oh, it's just the way it is. It's like, oh, it's got my mom and dad freaked out. I said, they're lying to you. Doesn't that piss you off that they're lying to you right in your face?
Right.
And then you look at the PCR test, and even Fauci came out and said that after 35 or 40 cycles, the thing's worthless or magnifications, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're doing 40 or 42. They're all worthless. Maybe only 10% of the people dying of COVID on the news are actually have died of it. So if there's 450,000 deaths, there's probably only like 45,000. And by the way, where did the colds, the flu deaths go? They disappeared. Where did they go?
Right. Yeah. What happened to our influenza crisis that we're usually in?
Yeah, it is insane what's going on. They're incentivizing these people with money. They get paid more money. They get, instead of like a pneumonia where they get like 5,500, like in Minnesota, they get 13,000. If they put them on a ventilator, then they get a total of like 37,000.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's money involved. It's just sketch.
Complicated.
And it's not the answer. Nobody's talking about boosting the immune system.
Right. So let's go there. let's shift that, because I think that's a great place for us to go. But first, I would love for you to talk about, can we move back just a second about inflammation? Because you earlier, before we got started today, everybody, we were talking about this amazing new product that you have that you were showing me. I'd love for you to talk about Turmeric 100. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it is. And the inflammation is everything, guys. There's a lot of doctors and people like me out there that their whole career is based around the cellular inflammation, trying to educate people that the actual cell is inflamed.
Right.
Now, this is very important, because if your cell is inflamed, you can't absorb nutrients in as well, and you can't get the waste out, right?
Like
it's like a dead cell. So I know that 85% of the nutrients are farmed out of the soils. So even if you're eating organic, you're still running around on 15% fuel. So I know we need to fix that. And we came up with a solution for that. but we also have to clean out the pathway of elimination so that you can get the nutrients through the intestinal lining into the blood.
Into the body where they're
That's
supposed
step
to be.
2. Now that it's into the blood, now we have to make sure that your cell is hydrated so it can absorb nutrients. That's why you got to drink a lot of water.
Yep.
Number 2, the cell has a nice lipid or fat membrane around it so the nutrients can get in. And the third thing is that cellular inflammation, right? So we've been addressing for the last, in my life, the last 10 years, basically, on the first 4. It was just recently, and I was like, wow, turmeric is such a powerful anti-inflammatory. And I had another product that I wanted to phase out. And I said, let's do this. Let's do it. So we came up with a product, and no black pepper needed. That's going to be our motto. We don't need it, because what we've done is we followed a study where they made turmeric, the curcuminoids, 185 times more absorbable and anti-inflammatory. This is a massive breakthrough in inflammation. So what ends up happening is we have this little bottle here, this little 2-ounce bottle called Turmeric 100. And I know it's 185 times more anti-inflammatory, but I just put 100 because I always like lowball and everything.
Well, it looks good too.
Yeah. So you just squirt it in your mouth, swish it around really quick, and you wait. And in 15 to 30 seconds, it disappears through the mucous membrane, goes right into the bloodstream. So it's not going to go through the digestive tract.
Right. Straight into the system.
We still have people taking turmeric powder and putting it on their food. When you make juice, use turmeric root. Yes, we want to do that. But this is going right through it. So it's so microscopically small that it actually can go through the blood-brain barrier. So it helps with headaches and all that kind of stuff, brain inflammation.
Of the nervous system.
Right. But within 5 minutes, the entire bloodstream is doused with these microscopic particles of this turmeric, curcuminoids. And it's literally like throwing a bottle of or a bucket of water on a little campfire. It's just going to. So now the inflammation is being diffused around the cell. Right. Now we can absorb nutrients. And now the hormones like T3 and T4 from the thyroid can attach and communicate with the cell. Vitamin D, which is not actually a vitamin, it's a hormone. It can attach to the cell. Very important one, by the way. Right. And now your communication is going to happen in your cells better. And guess what? If your cells are hydrated, they have a good fat membrane, there's no inflammation, they're taking in good nutrients, they're able to get rid of waste very easily. They have all that going on, and they're communicating with your hormones. I would venture to guess you're going to start feeling better.
Totally. Yeah. You have like a whole new body.
Right. Get the machine back to nature. That's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. It sounds so simple, right? And it is simple when we work at that like basic level. When we work at the cellular level, it's so easy to make changes.
Yeah.
We just have to have the right, doorway.
Yeah. But it's the root cause of all disease. So,
totally.
Cleaning yourself up and getting rid of inflammation. If you make that your life's mission, you're going to feel better. You're going to look younger. You're going to live longer, and you're going to have a higher quality of life.
Yeah. And then you're going to have, much longer life, higher quality and longer, and that's an interesting thing because I feel like people have been saying, I don't know, aging is such a strange thing that people discuss because I think they have been saying, oh, when you become 50 or become 60 or 70, but we can live for as long as we want to. If we're taking good care of our bodies, we've seen this huge decline in people because they haven't been taking care of themselves. Like people always say to me, like, you can't be that at the age that you are. I'm like, yeah, it's because I take care of myself.
Yeah. It's a choice too. At age 37, I looked 47. Now I'm 47 and a lot of people think I'm in my 30s.
Right. Yeah. It's all
and I feel good. And, so, and you're not going to just, if you're stuck in the mud, maybe you've got cancer right now, you got fibromyalgia or you got MS or whatever, you think, all these doctors, everybody tells me I can't do it. I'm on these meds. I feel like crap and I'm drinking wine. Well, guess what? You can just start taking small steps.
Right. Yeah.
And they just start building and building and building. And what I call it stacking the cards in the deck of health. We you get your air purified. We crack the window at night. We start purifying, restructuring your water. We do that. We get you on essential oils. We, get you off the Lycra bras and, get rid of the harmful swallowed toothpaste. And we get you some really nice toothpaste, just you keep stacking those cards. And that deck's going to get thicker and thicker. And eventually what's going to happen is your immune system is going to win.
Right.
Believe me,
your immune hand of the deck.
That's right. And then it's going to tip the scales in the other way. And then things are going to start going. And then you're going to pick up steam. Just like I started playing guitar a couple of years ago. In the beginning, my fingers were killing me. And I'm like, God, this is going to be hard. Do I even want to keep going? Then all of a sudden I was like, I got a chord down, and then I got 2
Ding.
chords. It's going back and forth. I was like, I can
Yeah.
go back and forth on 2 chords, and then I can play a little bit longer. And then all of a sudden now, like I can pull up a new song, and a third of them I can kind of play them.
Right.
Just the first time, because I've heard it before. I'm like, okay, and it gets fun.
Right.
And you can have the same process with your health. It can be something fun to do. It doesn't have to be a burden. You can start aligning yourself with people that are like you. That's why we have a community over here where people of like minds can come in, and people like you, join somebody's community and make some friends and hang out with people that believe in what you believe, that are going to lift you up and support you. Because usually the friends and the family are not the best support people in the beginning.
Right. Well, they've seen you, the good and the bad, and sometimes they focus on the bad. I love what you said about having fun with health, because I think that's a great way for people to refocus. It's like health has a bad rap sometimes, like, oh, you're gonna have to do so much work to be healthy. Well, not true. Once you start feeling better and living better and having fun with it, then that goes out, like you're saying, to all the community around you. And I think if you're surrounding yourself with people who are having fun with their health, you're gonna have fun too.
Yeah. And I will say this: if you have stage 4 cancer, it might be work up front, because you got your back against the wall and a gun to your head. So you have to implement a lot of stuff up front and do it now, because you have to, because you want to live. But for the person that's got, aches and pains, they want to drop 50, 40 pounds or whatever, you got time. Maybe, because you never know about heart attacks, right? Because 25% of people die with a heart attack. But the thing is like, why wait? Why would you think about this? This is the way I look at it. You're driving a car, right, Dr. Lulu, down the road, check engine light goes off. You just ignore it. You got a $50,000, $30,000 car. You're like, hell with it. I'll just keep driving. No problem. Okay. If you keep driving that car, you know what's going to happen. It's going to break down and leave you stranded. Or when you finally do take it into the shop, the repair bill is going to be through the roof, because you didn't take care of it when it was a small problem. Right. But what do we do with our health? We have these check body lights. You're overweight, you're fatigued, you don't feel well, you don't feel right, you have gas, you got bloating, your stools are messed up, you're not pooping.
An endless list.
You have all these things going on, pain, back, you don't feel good. Those are check body lights. Okay. Yeah, this is your body saying, hey, you need to change your environment now. Right. That's all it is. It's telling you, it's like, and you should be like, thank you so much, body, for the contrast. I need to change my ways. I'm not going to go into a doctor and have them hand me a pill and say, you don't have to change anything. You're just getting older. It's in your genetics. Exactly. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. Nobody can do anything. It's happening to me too. Now. I gotta put on my cheaters to read your prescription that I'm going to fill out, because I didn't take care of my health. Right. Right. So these are the things we have to look at this stuff and see things how they really are. Right. Get the emotion out of there. Like, so if your car, your body has got check body lights going off, take it into the shop. Who's going to be the mechanic? It's going to be you. Right. You're going to have to take responsibility for that body. You're going to have to clean it up, clean the gut, clean the blood, clean the fat, clean the muscle tissue, get all these toxins out. Stop putting them in. Where do they come from? Learn. Right. Learn proper food combining. Learn. Eat healthier, fresher foods. Right. Don't worry about losing the taste. You're going to be eating dirt sooner if you don't hurry up and do this stuff. You know what I mean? And we should be eating dirt while we're here, and we live longer. But when you're dead, you can't really do a whole lot. Right. Totally. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Prevention is the new key, right? It's not about ignoring signs. I think that's what you were just saying with a check body check. And it's so true. It's like, we need to not ignore our body anymore and how it communicates with us about our health from the littlest message. That's a first key. Yeah. It's like people are so used to saying, like you said, with the pill, take this, like, oh, I'll just ignore that message. And then the body sends another message, a bigger, louder message. And then you ignore that message. Then until finally, then like you said earlier, you're really messed up.
Yeah. And so it's not a good.
And I understand there's a lot of emotional stuff going on too here. Like, this isn't just about changing your food, your whole life changes. I thought I was going to be key. I thought I was going to be just a health coach. Hey, eat this, do this, clean out, do that. But when I found out, in 70% of my clients, they've got some deep emotional traumas from childhood or a divorce or a death. And we have to learn how to. People are using food as a dope to suppress those emotions. So we have to learn how to let them up, cry, do the emotional detox. You'll feel like if you've done this right, you'll feel like you're floating around on a magic carpet. That emotional baggage is literally hurting you and hurting your immune system. So it's something. Yeah. And if you're a guy out there listening, it's okay to cry. I'm going to give you permission, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the
Yeah.
redneck that used to drink whiskey and chew tobacco and hit baseballs and cut gut fish and deer and kill everything. And, you know, our motto was, if it flies, it dies, it's brown, it's down. I don't hunt and fish anymore like that because I just, you know, I'm pretty much plant-based now. But the
Mm-hmm.
bottom line is like, it's okay. Like I went
Yeah.
through that stuff with the child custody battle and my younger brother's death, and cried uncontrollably for over an hour both times. And it was some of the most best medicine I'd ever have in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And for us guys out there, we're taught, be tough, stiff upper lip, keep it inside, do what you need to do, soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sounds great when you're in a war, but it doesn't
Right.
work good when you're trying to have a relationship with a woman or a man or kids or driving through traffic or trying to heal yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That emotional baggage has got to be set that crap down and walk away. It is not serving you at all, at all. So I'm giving the guys and the women out there permission to walk away from it. It's okay. You don't need to carry that stuff with you anymore.
Yeah, that's so key. It's so right on, because if we don't address the emotional component of healing, we won't heal. Like it's, you know, it's just, it's like they're not separate. The physical, emotional, and spiritual body are one, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's really key. I'd love for you to talk about your core four secrets.
Okay. Well, we alluded to one of them earlier. And what happened was I'd have all these people, like literally thousands of people to my house, and I'd teach these juicing classes and dinner classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I sold a lot of juicers for a lot of these juicing companies because I had the results, and I'm like, this is what I did. Go do it.
Go do it.
So they'd start buying juicers. But what happened was that 9 out of 10 people, the juicer after a month or 2 or 3 would be under the cupboard and they weren't using it anymore.
Right. They're like, that was
and
fun.
I wanted to know why. I'm like, look, I did all this effort. I'm trying to help you. And what are you doing? And they all told me the same thing. Look, I don't have the time to do it. I don't want to clean that damn juicer. You know, my wife's not going to do it for me. My husband's not going to do it for me. It's expensive to buy all the stuff. I just don't have to. I don't have time. But I'm like, but you know that I healed myself. Like, this is how I did it. Like, why wouldn't you do this? And Charles healed himself of cancer. I mean, what more do you need? You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about juicing carrots and beets and tons of apples and sugary crap like that. I'm talking about celery and cucumber and greens. And we were doing lots of sprouts. I don't know if you knew this, but I had a company called the Sprout Company. We used to deliver 40 to 50 trays of wheatgrass, sunflower sprouts, and pea sprouts in the dirt growing to 40 to 50 cancer patients a week in the Portland metro area. So,
wow, that's great.
I love known as the grass man.
The grass man.
I had a lot of sprout guy, sprout man. We had a lot of names. I had to go out. This was before marijuana was legal in Oregon. So I had to go around to all the neighbors and say, hey, look, I'm not growing.
It's not that kind of stuff.
Come on over at Sprouts. I'll make you a salad,
Right.
This is wheatgrass, not marijuana grass. We can't smoke it. Okay.
But
we can juice it.
Good. Right. Yeah.
We can juice it.
Juicing is great.
Yeah. Juicing is awesome. So anyway, the core 4 secrets. So I went back to the drawing board and like, what could I do that I could share with people to make the most impact on their life with the least amount of effort on their part?
Yeah.
And I came up with 3 things. We added a 4th one later. Core secret number 1, drinking half your body weight in liquid ounces of purified water daily. We talked about this earlier. Less than 5% of the population is doing this. So I know that 95% of you out there listening, you have major rooms for improvement here. Now, here's the rub. The water has to be purified. This isn't a refrigerator filter. This isn't a Brita filter. That's, Brita actually owns is from Clorox. So they poison the water and they give you a little crappy filter. It's ridiculous. Triple purified water is what I recommend. You can do reverse osmosis, deionization, or distillation. I don't like the distillation that much anymore because
I don't like the way it tastes.
It's a pain in the ass to clean. The vapor valve, I'm like, where does this stuff go? Not the vapor valve. I'm like, that goes into the air I'm breathing. Like, I don't want that. So triple purification, but if you can do single, that's better than none. That'll pull out 90% of the contaminants. And now if you're in a city where you have city water on pipes, pressured pipes, then your water has to be restructured, period. Because the water molecules have coagulated. They basically got enlarged. It went from a 4 to 5 cluster to a 20 to 25 cluster. And what that means is that your intestinal lining is like a chain link fence. These clusters go from being like sand to the size of bowling balls, and they're not going to go through the fence. So you're going to drink a lot of water, which will be good for you, but you're just going to be peeing it all out. Right. It's not going to get into the blood. It's not going to get into the cardiovascular system. It's not going to get into the lymphatic system, which is your garbage removal system, which we really need. And it's just not, your body's not going to work as well.
Right.
So when you get that water purified and restructured, now you drink the water and it just disappears into the body, and then you pee a lot, but it's an hour or 2 hours later. That means it went through and I went through this process in
Processed
2000,
it.
in
Yeah.
2008, and I was able to drink 3 quarts of water in 30 minutes, and I was high on water for 6 hours with this purified, restructured, and then water is also charged with molecular hydrogen from this machine that I bought.
Nice.
It was a big investment, but I got it, and totally worth it. Now I'm high on water all day long, so it's it's a good thing. You want energy, change your water, you'll change your life. If anybody has questions about that, I've got a gal, her name's Danusha. She's I call her water woman. You can find her at danusha.com. It's Donna in Polish for Donna, Danusha.
Oh, nice.
Let me spell it. I think it's Dan, and then the word ouch, and then Dan Oucha, DANOUCHA.com. So she's a water woman. So that's core secret number 1. Core secret number 2 is chewing your food until liquefied. I learned that from that internal awareness class.
Yeah, totally. That's a key one.
How much is that going to cost you?
0.
Nothing. It doesn't cost anything. Just an investment in your health. So your teeth are there for a reason. They masticate, they break the particles down, so there's less burden from the digestion. But what's really cool is we have these 2 ducts in our upper mouth and 4 in the lower mouth that secrete these enzymes, amylase and lipase. These are going to break down your starches and your fats. So then you preload your food with all these enzymes, and then they go down in your gut, and then in the gut, the enzymes break down your starches and your fats. Now, for those of you worried about the proteins, your gut has hydrochloric acid, another substance called pepsin. That's where it's going to handle that. And it's acid, right? It's all acid down there, breaking and shaking and baking. And then it goes through that little 1-foot magic tube, the duodenum, and it goes from acid to alkaline, and then it dumps into the small intestine. This is what you want. Now, here's the deal. If you don't chew your food well and you eat like Garfield, like I used to, you're going to end up, always in a hurry, got to get it down, back to the clients or whatever, got to rush. You're going to destroy those intestinal villi that I talked about keeping intact. You're going to create fermentation and gut rot. That's what you're going to do. Your little villi are going to be rotting all the time in a rotting soup. And then guess what? You're going to look like an old prune faster. You're going to age faster. You're going to be sickly. You're going to be more acid. You're going to have more heart disease. And that leads to leaky gut syndrome, which 90% of us have, where you get these little microscopic tears or holes in the intestinal lining. And now these undigested food particles and microbes get into the blood. And what do they cause? More inflammation. And these can show up as Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, headaches, cancer. It can show up as a bazillion different things depending on your predisposition to a weakness for your genetics. So once again, it comes back to, you got to change that genetic environment so the genes will express themselves in a healthy way instead of a bad way, right?
Exactly.
Less than 4% of the population is chewing their food. And the last thing I'll say about food is, for those of you out there that are depressed or anxious, Dr. Gabriel Cousins, a medical doctor, who's 80, by the way, and can do 30 pull-ups. I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
So what you were talking about earlier, you don't need to age if you believe it.
Right.
He said by chewing your food really well, you're actually stimulating the meridian points in your teeth, and you can uptake your serotonin, your happy juice, by up to 500%.
Yeah. So connected to the brain, neurotransmitters.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a huge amount.
Right. People are buying serotonin supplements.
Right.
Just go chew your freaking food.
Right. Take a breath between mouthfuls.
Right.
Yeah.
Core secret number 3. Now that you're drinking lots of purified, restructured water, you're chewing your food really well. Now you want to avoid liquids with meals.
Right.
Why would you want to do that? Well, because you have all those enzymes down there working to break down your foods. And if you drink purified, restructured water, wine, beer, apple juice, apple cider vinegar, whatever, you're going to dilute those digestive enzymes, and you're going to go back you're going to go back to fermentation and gut rot. And that's not what you want. Your body wants digestion and assimilation of nutrients. Less than 2% of the population's doing it. So major rooms for improvement. So how do you do it? For beginners, stop drinking liquids 30 minutes before you have a meal, and then wait 1 hour after, then drink a lot of liquids again.
Right.
If you have stage 4 cancer, you're an Olympic level athlete, you want to look and feel your best, then stop drinking liquids an hour before and wait 2 hours after you eat, and drink a lot of liquids again.
Right. Give your body time to do what it needs to do.
The last one is core secret number 4. And this one is doing some breath exercises before you eat. Okay. We live in a stressed out lifestyle. We are in fight or flight mode, whether we like it or not. So simply doing this, you take a big deep breath in through your nose like this, pause at the top, and then release out through the mouth. A nice, long, slow flow. Just let it all go. And then you're going to pause at the bottom with your lungs completely empty. And then back in through the nose. Suspend the breath at the top and hold. And then release out through the mouth. And you're going to repeat this process for just a minute or two. Now, for those of you that just did that, you're probably already feeling more relaxed.
That's
Your
right.
stress has already dropped in just 2 breaths.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the most powerful tactics that I've ever shared with my clients or I've used myself. So what ends up happening is when you're in fight or flight mode, the blood leaves the organ systems because chewing food's not important right now, or digesting food. What's important is getting fighting or getting the heck out of there. So all the blood goes to your extremities, your arms, legs, hands, and feet to fight or flight, to run, get out of there. That's not good for digestion. So by simply taking those deep breaths, you can send the blood from the extremities back into the organ systems. It gives you a moment too to be grateful for your food, and just put a layer or a cloud of warmth and love over your food. Be grateful for your food, the people you're with. If somebody wronged you that day, just thank them for the contrast. Just be very grateful for everything that you have in your life. And then chew your food really well and enjoy that meal, and you're going to digest it a lot better. And this is also a tool in your toolkit that you can use at any time during the day. I recommend doing it when you wake up. I recommend it before meals. I recommend it at work when you're stressed, before you go to bed, all the time. Do it. Do it. Make it and make this a new habit. Like, I'm going to grab that tool out of my toolbox and use breath work. I've had people that have had major social anxieties, like especially when they go out in public. Like I was doing Portland Veg Fest one year. We had, a booth and everything. And this young girl, she was like all freaked out. I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, well, I have social anxiety really bad, but my friends made me come out. And I usually never come out of the house. So it's like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what level are you right now? On 1 being, mellow, jello, and 10, you're freaked out and you got to run. She's like, I'm about an 8 right now.
Okay.
I said, can I see your hand? She's like, yes. And I touched her hand. I said, what I want you to do is I want you to do some breath exercises with me. And I just did this for a couple minutes.
Right.
And I said, okay, now on a 1 to 10, where you at? She's like, I'm about a 5.
Nice.
It's like, you feel better. I said, you dropped 3 points in 2 minutes. I go, what had changed? She's like, well, I don't know. She's like, I did the breath work. I said, you just calmed your nervous system.
Right. Exactly.
I go, your nervous system for some reason has been programmed to, it's afraid of something that's not real.
Right.
Right. So she's like, I'm going to do this. She's like, I've never taken a pill that's made this big of a difference.
Yeah.
And for those of you listening, it can not only help you with your stress, but it can change your life, and it's going to help you with your absorption of nutrients too. So do it before you eat. So that's it. Less than 1% of the population is doing that one. So those are the core 4 secrets.
Love it. Those are great, Tim. Love those core secrets. Yeah. They're not
and
secrets anymore.
No, they're out there. And we know they work because of COVID. We started shipping last year internationally. We have clients in Australia and Ireland and UK, all over the place. And people are sending us emails and texts saying, hey, look, my gas and bloating is improving. My energy's already up. I'm sleeping better. And the products haven't even arrived yet. And they're all saying, I'm practicing these core 4 secrets.
Yeah, those are great tips to success and secrets to success. Okay, Tim, what are some fun parting words of advice you have for our listeners today for taking charge and empowering their health?
Well, what you just said, I'd say this, put yourself first. That's what I always say. I see so many people, men and women, that put themselves last. They take care of the kids. They take care of the spouse. They take care of the parents. They take care of everybody else. They don't take care of themselves, and they run themselves into the dirt.
Right.
And then a wheel falls off, and then they can't take care of nobody.
Yeah,
that's the problem. So here's the thing. And you think about that. You're like, no, I'm going to take care of my kids. I love my kids. Here's the problem. Just like Mama Bear teaches Baby Bear how to find the grubs in the wooden stump that's rotten out. There's where the food is. Here's the salmon over here. Eat this grass. Don't eat that. The baby is modeling everything Mama Bear does. The baby is modeling everything Mama Bear and Daddy Bear are doing, like how you're treating yourself, running yourself into the dirt, overworking yourself, stressing yourself out. They're watching everything you do. You're drinking a bunch of beer when you get home to medicate because you're at a job you don't like and your relationship's not working. There's all these things. It's like what we do speaks so loudly. The children, they're modeling us. The first 7 years is so important.
Right. Oh yeah.
So every moment you can't do it for yourself. Do it for your kids. Think about it. Here's what's going to happen. if you don't put yourself first, most likely your children who you think you're doing this for to help them because they're more important, you're setting them up for a lifetime of failure. They're going to be right where you're at. They're going to put themselves last, run themselves into the dirt because they copied mama and they copied daddy.
Right.
So if you really love your kids, like honestly, I'm just being like completely, open and upfront about this. If you really truly love your kids, then be selfish and start loving yourself.
Right.
Because that's what you want them to do. So if somebody years ago would have said, what's more important, you or your kids? I'd have said, my kids, no question.
Right.
I'd take a bullet from them. Well, guess what? I'll still jump in front of a bullet for my children. But if somebody asked me today, who's more important? It's like, freaking, I'm important.
Right.
I'm number one. Because if I don't take care of me, I can't take care of them. And I also want to model like Mama Bear that I'm important so that they have the permission to do the same. Not that they're going to, but at least now I've given them that gift. I've dropped the gift off. They can do what they want with the gift.
Do what they want with the gift. That's right.
So give that gift to yourself, give that gift to your children, and please put yourself first and start wrapping yourself up with a lot of love. And that's the most important thing I could share today.
That's great. I love that. Yeah. Taking care of yourself is that's what I tell my patients all the time. You got to do that. If you don't do that, then you're not going to get better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what examining that I think is so key to your health, like really looking deep in, you can say you're taking care of yourself, but are you really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. One fun last question for you today before we wrap up some things, Tim. What would you do if you had an unlimited budget? What would you do with that money to make the biggest impact on the planet right now?
Well, I think I would just keep doing more of what I am doing. And then I would also, which I'm thinking about doing, is bringing a lot more of the spiritual component into my business.
Nice.
I'm thinking about, we're rebuilding my website right now. It's going to look the same when we transition over, but I'm going to start transitioning it over more nature, more of a spiritual message. And because we talked about that earlier, it's just like, unfortunately, in Western medicine, they compartmentalize everything.
Right.
Go see the foot doctor. Oh, my
Box
gut
it
doesn't
out.
feel good and I got a sore throat. Well, I can help you with the gut, but I don't work on that throat thing. That's way up there.
Yeah, it's not connected at all. Go see someone else.
No, it's beyond that. It's just, so not only is the entire body connected, but we're connected to our emotions and our spirit and higher mind, he, she, it, God, the vortex, whatever you want to call it. There's this is something that is very I had no connection with until I changed my lifestyle, and I got all this food out of the way that I was using to suppress my emotions. I cried, I got it all out. And then I started looking around. I was like, wow, there's something more here. I didn't know what it was. So, and then in 2018, I finally stumbled upon a path and I started really diving in. And now I'm really ready to do that again. And it's that spiritual stuff has been so good for me because I was a standard guy. I was stressed out all the time and I would get angry and I would argue and yell at people or be negative, and I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm releasing that. I do a pretty good job. I would say I'm probably 95% better, but there's still a little bit there. I want to completely just release that and be just a really happy person and be that, mama bear or daddy bear for not just for my children, but for other people, whether they're the same age, a little younger, a little older than me. It doesn't really matter what your age is. We can lead by example and help people. So, that's what I would do. I would just keep helping people detox, nutrition, bringing the awareness, helping them change their lifestyles and bring more of a spiritual component to people's lives.
I love it. That's great. That's easy. You can have the unlimited budget for that. No problem. Okay. So Tim, how can people find you, find out about what you're doing, and find out about the detox line you have? And there's a discount code you mentioned.
Oh, yeah. So the easiest way to get a hold of us is just at my website, chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com. I also have a podcast called The Health Hero Show. So there's a lot of free information in there. And then, I go deep on detoxing and nutrition, proper food combining. I've had some great guests on, like Senator Dr. Scott Jensen, Del Bigtree, people like that. Just had Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai on. That one's dropping today. He's one of the hardest interviews to get. He's just awesome. So, but if people want to get some products, we have 8 products. I know it can be confusing in the beginning. So what I recommend you do is just go to the products tab, and there's a drop down menu that says savings bundles.
Mm.
And you can go to all products and just pick one out if you want to get one of something and try it out and go. But the savings bundles, they're packaged up with discounts. So we have like a little jumpstart bundle all the way up to the total energy and detox bundle, which is what I take on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Plus now I also take the turmeric 100, which I
Boom.
think everybody should be on that.
Yeah.
And then you go to checkout. Now, when they go to checkout, if they type in the code TGG for the Genetic Genius,
Yes.
which is a great podcast,
Thank you.
TGG, you get an additional 5%. So you get a
Yay.
double discount. And all of our products have a double your money back guarantee because they work. And if they don't work for some reason, then we'll refund your money. And please call us because I will steer you to another company to fix it. And because maybe some people have a little, everybody needs individualized things.
Right.
You could have an allergy to one ingredient.
Right.
These are just tools in the toolkit. And believe me, we have a massive toolkit over here. The supplements are just part of that toolkit.
Yeah.
The water is the toolkit. The breath work is the toolkit. And there's a lot, acupressure mats, and there's all kinds of things to put in the toolkit, grounding pads.
Right.
And these are just part of them, but they work really good. And all of our products are sun dried or air dried under 110 degrees. So the enzymes are active.
Nice.
A lot of Ayurvedic. Our Dr. Scott Treadway is an Ayurvedic practitioner. He's one of the top formulators in the world, and our products are awesome. We don't really get that many returns at all.
Yeah. Love it. Well, thanks, Tim. That's a great bonus you're giving to the listeners, and I really appreciate it. I can't wait for them to try your products. And thanks so much for being a guest today on the show. I learned so much, and I can't wait to share it with the world.
Thanks, Dr. Lulu. It was my pleasure.